For as long as I can remember, people have only ever seen my wheelchair before they saw me. I'm Ethan Blake, 27 years old, heir to the Blake family empire. At least, that's what the papers like to call me. The truth. I'd never stepped foot in my father's company before that Monday morning. Not because I didn't care, but because my father, Charles Blake, never believed I was capable of handling it. "You're too fragile," he'd always said. "The world will eat you alive." But after his sudden passing, I became the official CEO of Blake Industries, whether I wanted it or not. Everyone expected me to fail. Even my stepmother, Victoria, smirked when I told her I was coming to the office in person. "Well," she said, stirring her tea, "try not to embarrass the family name." So I promised myself that morning I'd prove them wrong. When I arrived at the company, people froze. You could feel the whispers follow me down the marble halls. A few employees smiled politely, others pretended not to stare. I didn't mind. I was used to that part. What I wasn't used to was the way everyone's attitude shifted the moment I passed by the cleaning staff near the elevators. A middle-aged cleaning lady had been wiping the floor. She looked up, just one glance, and dropped her mop with a loud clatter. Her eyes widened as if she'd seen a ghost. Then she gasped, covered her mouth, and fainted on the spot. Security rushed over immediately. I moved forward, worried. "Is she okay?" I asked, trying to roll closer. One of the guards hesitated before answering. She just passed out, sir." But, before she did, she said something strange. "What did she say?" "He swallowed." She said, That mark shouldn't exist." Everyone looked at me. I instinctively touched the side of my neck. A small birthmark, a curved crescent, faint but visible, something I'd had since birth. I frowned. "What do you mean it shouldn't exist?" The guard shrugged, pale-faced. That's all she said before she collapsed. They took the woman, her name was Mara, to the company clinic. I followed, insisting on making sure she was okay. When she woke up, her face was pale and her eyes red from tears. She looked at me like I was something she couldn't comprehend. "I'm sorry, sir," she whispered. "I didn't mean to frighten anyone." "You didn't," I said gently. "You just said something about a mark." Her eyes darted to my neck. "Yes, that mark. The crescent." I nodded. "I've had it since I was a baby." "Why?" Mara hesitated, her hands trembling. "Because my son had the same mark. Exactly the same. But he died 27 years ago." For a moment, the room went completely silent. I felt my chest tighten. I'm sorry for your loss. But I was born 27 years ago too." She nodded slowly, tears spilling down her cheeks. "His name was Eli. He was taken from the hospital the day after he was born. They told me he died in a fire at the nursery. But I never saw a body. Only a bracelet, with a name tag." "What name tag?" I asked quietly. "Baby E." My mind spun. My mother had always been a quiet woman, and she'd died when I was 10. My father rarely spoke about her, only that she'd been fragile and that I'd been lucky to survive. But now, this woman was describing events that aligned perfectly with my birth year, hospital, and even the same unusual mark on my neck. Mara was shaking now. "I know it sounds impossible, sir. But that mark, it runs in my family. My grandmother had it. My mother had it. And my baby boy," she covered her mouth, "had it too." I called my stepmother that afternoon. "Victoria," I said, my voice steady, "do you know anything about a woman named Mara Lewis? She used to work at St. Julian's Hospital, in the maternity ward." There was a long pause. Then her voice turned sharp. "Why are you asking about her?" I gripped the phone. "Because she fainted when she saw me today. She said her son was taken from her 27 years ago, the same year I was born, and that I have his family's birthmark." Silence. Then she said coldly, "Don't dig into things you don't understand, Ethan. It won't do you any good." Then she hung up. That was all the confirmation I needed. That night, I went through my late father's private documents. In an old safe behind his desk, I found a file labeled Adoption Records. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside were two papers. One was my birth certificate, issued under a different last name, Lewis. The other was a hospital report about a transfer of custody arranged by Victoria Blake 3 months before she married my father. My head spun. My stepmother, the same woman who treated me like an inconvenience, had been the one to take me. The next morning, I called Mara into my office. She came in cautiously, eyes filled with confusion. "Mara," I said softly, sliding the documents toward her. "I think I'm your son." She looked at the papers, then at me. Tears streamed down her face as she pressed a trembling hand to her mouth. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Then she reached across the table and touched the mark on my neck gently. "That mark," she whispered, "is ours. There's no doubt." When word spread through the company, chaos followed. The media got wind of the story. Billionaire heir found to be kidnapped child from 27 years ago. Victoria tried to deny everything at first, but the documents and the hospital testimony left her no escape. She was arrested for falsifying adoption records and coercion. As for me, I didn't feel anger, just relief and peace. Because for the first time, I knew who I really was. Now, Mara works at my side, not as an employee, but as the mother I was stolen from. Every morning, when I roll into that office, I remember that day she fainted, the day everything changed. Sometimes, the truth doesn't arrive with answers. Sometimes, it starts with a single question, and a mark that refuses to fade.